3 million years ago, back when humanity's first ancestors took their wobbly steps on Earth, one particular Australopithecus stood out. He wasn't some enlightened being or destined hero, just a prehistoric primate with an unusual obsession: hunting. Unlike his fellow apes, who were busy figuring out fire and throwing rocks, this guy, he lived for the thrill of battle. But something about him defied nature's rules. He never died. Time swept past him. His species went extinct. Civilizations rose and fell, yet he remained. Unstoppable, unaging. Through endless wars and clashes, his body evolved, honed by millions of years of combat. And eventually, he ascended beyond mortality itself. No longer a mere hunter, he became a god, the undisputed first-ranked deity in the divine realm. And so, Earth's strongest being, Mu, sat atop his celestial throne, bored out of his mind. "Ugh, I'm so bored," he groaned, stomping his foot. That single stomp? Yeah, it didn't just shake his divine palace. It sent shockwaves through the entire god's domain, rattling planets like marbles in a cosmic bowl. Even the second-ranked god, Lucifer, ruling over a neighboring planet, got irritated. Meanwhile, Mu slouched deeper into his throne, sighing. "I thought fighting was fun, but there's literally no one left who can challenge me. When was my last real battle? 1,000 years ago? Being too strong is such a hassle." Wait. His eyes lit up with an idea so dumb, it was genius. If I'm too strong to fight, why not make myself weak? Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. With renewed excitement, Mu roared, "Yong Yong!" A massive dragon came before him. His ever-loyal secretary, the legendary supreme god's aide, the mighty Yong Yong the dragon, who immediately regretted answering the call. "You summoned me, my lord?" Yong Yong asked hesitantly. Mu grinned. "Watch over this place while I'm gone." What? Before Mu could take another step, Yong Yong panicked and activated his strongest sealing technique, absolute binding. A torrent of divine chains erupted, wrapping around Mu's body in an attempt to lock him in place. But Mu, he didn't even slow down. Still chained down, he casually walked forward, dragging the celestial shackles behind him like they were made of yarn. Panicking, Yong Yong flapped his wings in distress. Wait! You can't just leave. The God's Council meeting is coming up. Who's going to explain this? What am I supposed to tell the other gods?" Mu, still strolling, didn't even glance back. "Do I look like I care?" Yong Yong clutched his chest dramatically. "Why was I even born? I feel so useless." Mu suddenly snapped his chains like twigs and turned back with a deadly glare. "So, do you want to fight me instead?" Yong Yong immediately surrendered. "Wah, have a safe trip, my lord." Satisfied, Mu waved. "I'm off." As he looked down at Earth, he scoured the planet for a suitable body to inhabit. His gaze pierced through the prayers of countless mortals, most of them whining about their miserable lives. Then he found one, a soul that caught his interest. "All right, this guy. I'll grant his wish as a bonus," Mu smirked. But then, out of the corner of his eye, he noticed Yong Yong sobbing in the background. Maybe I should explain it to him? Mu turned back with a grin. "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm leaving my body behind, so take care of it. Also, keep an eye on the one who'll take my place." Yong Yong's eyes widened in horror. "Wait, are you saying you're leaving your soul? That's insane. If your body dies while you're away, you die permanently." Mu just chuckled. "Worry about yourself. I'll be back." And with that, his soul burst into light, vanishing from the divine realm. Meanwhile, on Earth, a teenager gripped his phone, staring at his game screen. His name? Lee Ho, just your average 17-year-old Earthling. And he had just conquered another fantasy world inside his game. "That's it," he muttered, unimpressed. "With cheat abilities, I easily became the strongest." Another generic isekai ending. Lucky bastard. With a sigh, he dropped his phone. Unfortunately, he dropped himself, too, off the edge of a building. As he fell, wind rushing past him, he scoffed. "If there's a god out there, screw you. If you're upset, send me to another world." Then, splat. Silence. Then, suddenly, his hand twitched, his eyes shot open. He gasped, "What the?" Somehow he was alive. But something felt off. His body wasn't his own. His mind was flooded with unfamiliar thoughts. A voice echoed inside his head. What is this? Back in the divine realm, Yong, the dragon, stared in shock at the new figure standing before him. A trembling Li Ho looked up. Who the hell are you? Yong, just as confused, pointed a claw. Who the hell are you? Just moments before leaving for his new body, Mu confidently declared, I'll be right back. As light flashed around him, his soul shot downward, entering the body of a boy who had just thrown himself off a building. Li Ho. It was the worst possible timing. Right as Mu took over, the body hit the ground. Pain flooded his senses, his mind reeling from the shock. Blood spilled from his shattered body, pooling beneath him. He gasped, barely conscious, his thoughts racing. What is this? As soon as I arrive, I'm already dying? The world blurred around him, the feeling of death creeping in. But Mu had spent 3 million years mastering his body. He had reached the pinnacle of physical control, understanding every movement down to its most microscopic level. Unlike normal humans who relied on involuntary muscles to keep their hearts beating and blood flowing, Mu could manually control them all, and so he activated his heart. A sudden gasp escaped his lips as his lungs seized oxygen, his blood vessels adjusting, forcing circulation through his battered body. He could feel his wounds trying to close. The heart's been repaired, and the blood flow stabilized. Stop the bleeding too. Damn, it's been a while since I've bled this much. Slowly Mu forced himself up, his body weak but functional. As he stood, he smirked. Coming here was definitely the right choice. Shaking off the pain, he dug through Li Ho's memories, processing the life he had now inherited. All right, first things first. I need to get to my base. But as he started walking, he realized just how weak this human body was. Every step felt sluggish. At this rate, it'll take me all day to get there. Instinct kicked in. Without thinking, his body dropped to all fours, moving like a beast, using both his hands and feet to propel himself forward at full speed. Back at Li Ho's home, Mu sat on the bed, piecing together the details of his new life. Hours of sifting through memories gave him a full picture. Only one male family member, but he lives far away, meaning Li Ho was essentially alone. His life was miserable, financially unstable, and his occupation, a student. A student who gets bullied every single day. Mu's eyes lit up. Perfect. I can jump straight into a fight. He threw a punch into the air, but the moment his fist extended, a jolt of pain shot through his arm. He frowned, gripping his trembling muscles. Shh, my arm's shaking? Right. Using muscles I haven't in a while. The realization hit him. Muscle soreness? After 1,000 years? Ha! How exhilarating. A grin stretched across his face, almost too wide, almost too excited. The next morning, at the site where Mu, or rather Li Ho, had jumped, police officers surrounded the area. Onlookers whispered among themselves, phones raised, recording the dried blood on the pavement. What happened here? There's so much blood. But Li Ho, or rather Mu, paid no mind. He had another battlefield to step into. As he arrived at school, he approached the classroom door and threw it open with full force, only for it to swing back and slam him in the face. Damn momentum! Ignoring it, he stepped inside, eyes locking onto his target. His bully. The guy immediately sneered. Hey Lee, what are you doing? Mu's eyes sparkled with excitement as he walked up to him. It's you, isn't it? The bully furrowed his brows. What? Have you gone crazy? Where are your glasses? Then, without warning, the bully stood up and swung a punch at Mu's face. The force of the hit sent him stumbling back, blood dripping from his lips. Mu wiped the blood from his mouth, unfazed. He wasn't the type to throw random punches. He had rules when it came to fighting. A fight only truly begins when all parties involved agree to it, whether through intent, action, or sheer aggression. And to Mu, there was one clear way to confirm that: the opponent's first strike. He ran his tongue over his busted lip, tasting the metallic tang of blood. His grin widened. Finally, the bully stepped back. Loving this, aren't you, you freak? But before he could react, Mu's fist flew forward, smashing into his face. A shockwave of pain shot through Mu's arm, forcing him to shout in agony. That's right, muscle soreness. Before anyone could react, the teacher stormed in, eyes burning with rage. What the hell are you bastards doing during class? A student shouted from the back. A fight broke out. The bully, now furious, wiped his mouth and glared at Mu. You're dead, freak. Mu prepared himself. If my body was in good condition, I could dodge this easily. But since that's not the case, he instinctively tried to use his abilities, his divine strength, his skills, his magic. Nothing. Huh? It's not activating? Before he could figure it out, the bully's punch smashed into his face again. Blow after blow rained down on him, but Mu remained calm, analyzing the situation. All right, if I can't use my arms, legs, or magic, I'll just use my forehead. As the bully threw another punch, Mu leaned forward. Crack. The bully screamed. Damn it! Clutching his now broken fingers, Mu smirked. Thin fingers can't possibly overcome a skull. But he didn't stop there. Before the bully could recover, Mu lunged forward, grabbing his arm and twisting it. In one swift motion, he rammed his forehead into the bully's solar plexus. The bully gasped, choking for air. Mu didn't let up. He followed with a final strike, slamming his forehead into the bully's chin. The bully crumpled to the floor. Silence. The entire class stared in shock. Phones recording. Mu glanced down at his trembling hand, his thoughts racing. After a fight ends, after the excitement settles, there's something you can only feel after winning. He ran his tongue along his lips, the bitter taste of blood sinking in. His body shook, his smile widening uncontrollably. This is it! Mu crouched beside the unconscious bully, tilting his head as he examined his handiwork. With a smirk, he leaned in and bit off a piece of the bully's ear, casually spitting it out onto the floor. The entire classroom erupted in shock. Did he just bite his ear? One student gasped. He's insane, another whispered, backing away. Mu wiped his mouth and looked down at the beaten bully, a satisfied grin on his face. That was a fun fight. It's been a while. For Mu, battle was more than just a contest of strength. It was a thrill, a game. Those who gave him a worthy fight were marked, left with a piece of him, a permanent reminder of their battle. It was his way of showing gratitude, a tradition he carried across eons. In the divine realm, his opponents saw this as an honor, a mark of Mu's play, a symbol of true strength. But here on Earth, it was just disturbing. Meanwhile, in the second-year classrooms, students gathered in groups, whispering about the fight. That Lee Ho guy, he actually beat him, one of them muttered. The bully got wrecked by the kid he used to pick on, another said. And the loser got neutered. Mu stood by the classroom window, watching as the unconscious bully was loaded into an ambulance. A smirk crept onto his face as he chuckled. House call treatment. Nice. See you again. Before he could enjoy the moment any longer, a furious voice called out behind him. You, to the teacher's office, now! Mu turned to see his homeroom teacher storming toward him, seething with rage. Inside the teacher's office, the man slammed his hands on the desk. Are you out of your mind? You mutilated a classmate? Mu sat casually, unfazed by the scolding. But as the teacher lifted his hand, ready to hit him, Mu's eyes lit up. Oh? He's gonna hit me? His fingers twitched in anticipation, excitement bubbling in his chest. But just as the slap was about to land, the teacher froze, hesitating as he saw Mu's expression, a grin that was too wide, eyes that were too thrilled. He looked like someone who wanted to be hit. The teacher took a deep breath, then exhaled sharply. Forget it. Just bring your parents tomorrow. Don't cause a scene today. Just leave early. Mu blinked, his grin fading. Not hitting me? Leave early? Later, as he walked outside, Mu stretched his sore muscles. Leaving early means heading back to the base. His body still ached. But this was good. He needed time to recover from the damage. If he wanted to keep fighting in this weak human body, he needed to adjust. Would have been nice to use mana, though. For the first time, Mu actively tried to summon his abilities, reaching for the energy he had wielded for millions of years, but nothing happened. No divine aura, no godly strength. Not even a spark. Mana, the energy that powered warriors across the realms. Some called it chi, others chakra, but for gods, it was mana, a life force that existed everywhere in nature. In some worlds, humans used it to become hunters or wizards, but here, on Earth, it didn't exist. No mana meant no magic, no divine abilities. Mu sighed. Looks like I have to get used to fighting without powers. That night, lying in bed, Mu let his human body rest for the first time. As he slept, his soul returned to his original body. When he opened his eyes, he was back in the divine realm, staring at the familiar, scaly face of Yang, who was currently being choked out by an uninvited guest. A boy stood before him, clutching the dragon's neck with both hands. "Give me that dragon," the boy demanded. "Didn't you call me here to send me to another world? It'd be nice if you gave me the dragon too while you're at it. With a dragon, I could be overpowered in another world." That's what the boy was thinking. Mu didn't like that. Without warning, Mu seized Li Ho with his ability. Li panicked. "Hey, what are you doing?" Mu turned, walking forward without a care. "I'm sending you to another world." The scene shifted to the domain of the second-ranked god, Lucifer. The moment Mu arrived, Lucifer turned to face him, his eyes narrowing as he said, "No." Mu, confused, replied, "What? I haven't even said anything yet." Lucifer crossed his arms. "I already know why you're here, and the answer is no." Mu grinned. Yeah. Anyway, I've decided to send this guy. Open the gate." Lucifer scowled. "And why do you get to decide that?" "Because I'm stronger." Mu's grin widened, his tongue slipping out slightly, saliva dripping down his lips. His body shook with excitement. "If you have a problem, hit me anytime." Lucifer's jaw clenched. He wanted to, but he knew better. Just brute strength. That's all Mu was. As Mu moved past him, Lucifer spoke again. "What are you doing? Interfering in another god's domain is against the rules. If a god enters a realm that isn't theirs, the domain's barrier activates. Even you..." Before he could finish, Mu shattered the barrier. Lucifer's eyes widened in shock. Mu tilted his head. "Why do you gods always say no before even trying?" The barrier had meant nothing to him. Mu then released the boy from his ability, telling him, "Go on. You said you wanted to go to another world, right?" But Li hesitated, stepping back. "What about the dragon?" Mu didn't care, and replied, Yang is mine. Go find your own dragon." With a flick of his ability, Mu hurled Li into the portal. He watched as the boy vanished into the swirling void, then sighed. Kids these days don't want to put in the effort. Turning back, he smirked at Lucifer. "Take good care of him." Lucifer's eye twitched in anger as Mu walked away. The story then revealed Lucifer's background, the first demon king, the ruler of Elmore, once known as the strongest being in existence. He had stood at the pinnacle of all humans, challenging even the gods themselves. And when he finally killed one, he became one. He rose to the top, defeating every other god, reigning as the absolute ruler of his domain, invincible, supreme, legendary. Until Mu arrived. Now, in the present, Lucifer clenched his fists, his rage barely contained. "Just wait, you lowly human." Unseen in the shadows, a demon's eye watched Mu's every move as he left the domain with his dragon. The scene shifted to a hospital room. The bully sat fuming, his body aching from the injuries he had sustained. Gritting his teeth, he muttered to himself, "That loser. But it doesn't matter, he's already done for." As he reached for his phone, he scrolled through his contacts before dialing a number. The scene shifted to a gym where a man relentlessly pummeled a punching bag. Sweat dripped from his brow as he continued his intense training. A ringing phone interrupted his rhythm. He turned slightly but didn't react. Instead, another boxer nearby, a younger fighter with only 2 years of experience, picked up the phone. His name was Guak Chiol. He glanced at the screen and answered. "Yo, who's this?" The bully's voice came through the line. "It's me. Remember when you said your phone screen was broken? You still need a new one?" Guak chuckled, rolling his shoulders. "Cut the crap and get to the point." Later, back in the classroom, the bully walked in, his face still bandaged from the fight. The students noticed him, gawking in surprise. "How is he even back already?" one muttered. After all that talk, he got beaten up by the kid he always picked on. The loser got neutered. The bully's jaw clenched. Enough. He slammed his backpack onto the floor, silencing the room. "You guys sure love to run your mouths. If you got a problem, come and say it to my face." A girl suddenly stood up, crossing her arms. Quit it. Sit down or get out. The bully turned, eyes blazing with anger. You out of your mind? You want to die, lunatic? Before the situation could escalate, the classroom door slid open with a loud thud. A hulking figure stepped inside, the homeroom teacher, his sheer presence enough to shut everyone up. What's going on here? He asked, his deep voice booming through the room. His sharp gaze scanned the classroom before landing on the girl. Why are you standing, class president? She hesitated before finally sitting down. It's nothing, sir. The teacher nodded, then added, Class president, see me after school today. She furrowed her brows. Why? The teacher sighed. That idiot who caused a scene yesterday, Lee Ho. He hasn't answered his phone. Can you check on him? Then, with an indifferent wave of his hand, he added, I'll make sure to write you a glowing recommendation letter for university. The class president scowled. She hated being dragged into things like this, but in the end, she still went. Outside Moo's house, the class president knocked firmly on the door. Lee Ho, you in there? No response. After knocking a few more times, she tried the door handle. Surprisingly, it was unlocked. Pushing the door open, she hesitantly stepped inside. Her eyes landed on Lee Ho's unconscious body lying motionless on the floor. Her breath hitched. Corpse! Later, at the hospital, Moo's soul re-entered his human body. His consciousness returned as his eyes slowly opened. His gaze flickered around the unfamiliar ceiling. This doesn't look like the same place I remember. He flexed his fingers slightly, trying to assess his condition. That's when he noticed something attached to his arm, a tube, fluids, a medical IV. His body was recovering. What is this? Something's being absorbed into my body. These are nutrients? His muscles were rapidly replenishing themselves, accelerating his recovery. It's not exactly perfect, but Earth does have some decent stuff after all. A grin formed on his face. That's when he noticed the class president sitting next to him. You're awake. Good. The homeroom teacher made me check up on you, she said, clearly annoyed. Now that you're alive, I'll just take the attendance call. Moo stared at her for a moment before tilting his head. Did she help me recover? He cleared his throat. Wait, I have a question. She exhaled, rubbing her temples. What now? Make it quick. I have better things to do. Moo smirked. I need a place where I can train my body. The class president raised an eyebrow. You don't have any money, do you? Moo just grinned. The scene shifted to a public gym, where Moo could be seen doing pull-ups with impressive form. As he finished, he landed on the ground and wiped his hands, nodding to himself. This is nice. What is this place called again? He glanced at the sign. Sansujang? He muttered, intrigued. Back in my day, training was simple. Stone rolling, cliff climbing, digging holes. But Earthlings? They might be tougher than I thought. This training is interesting. He observed the modern gym equipment, fascinated by the efficiency of the machines. This is definitely a different kind of training. Just then, a rock suddenly hit him in the back. Moo blinked. Did someone just throw a rock at me? Turning around, he saw none other than the bully, his face still bruised from their last fight. The guy was fuming, his fists clenched. I searched the whole neighborhood for you, you bastard, he shouted. Moo slowly bent down and picked up the rock. He examined it for a moment before tilting his head. Who threw this? The bully scoffed. Who else? I did. Just as he was about to say more, Moo's fist connected with his face. The impact was brutal, sending him staggering backward. Moo grinned, wiping the blood off his knuckles. A preemptive attack? Welcome. The scene shifted to the divine realm, where the usual gods' meeting was underway. Yong Yong, the supreme dragon, and Moo's ever-loyal aide stood before the assembly, clearing his throat nervously. I'll start the meeting now. Since the Lord isn't here, I'll just relay his message. Before he could continue, Lucifer, the second-ranked god, angrily said, Hey, what the hell are you doing? Yong Yong flinched. No, I'm not doing anything suspicious. I'm just here to deliver a message and leave. He fumbled with a piece of parchment, reading aloud. Same as always, if you find someone worth fighting, report it. That's all. Lucifer's eye twitched, his fingers clenching into a fist before he smashed the table into pieces. What's even the point of this? I was already annoyed by these pointless meetings, and now he doesn't even bother to show up? Are we really just going to accept this? The other gods remained silent, avoiding Lucifer's glare. One of them finally spoke up. These meetings exist to ensure world stability. When an anomaly appears that the world's assigned god can't handle, we step in. That's our duty. But isn't this ridiculous? Not attending is just disrespectful. That last remark came from Soso, the third-ranked god and the divine archer of the realm. Lucifer scoffed. The real issue here is that maintaining the world is nothing more than a game to that bastard. His reckless antics could cause the entire system to collapse. And the worst part? His so-called solutions always make things worse. The room fell into uneasy silence. Everyone knew what was coming next. Remember Planet Cyclops from 1,000 years ago? Lucifer's voice was filled with resentment. That world was attacked by Shoggoth, a nightmare-class creature. And instead of working together to minimize damage, what did that idiot do? He charged in alone, wiped out the monster, and destroyed half the planet in the process. Some gods flinched at the memory. The once thriving planet Cyclops had barely recovered since then. Lucifer clenched his fists. I can't sit back and watch him destroy things anymore. He's not fit to be a god. Meanwhile, Yong, who was sweating profusely, lowered his head. My lord, why do I have to endure this trial? Please return soon. Please. Back on Earth, the bully, still reeling from Mu's punch, staggered back, clutching his face. You bastard! Are you insane? Do you even know who my cousin is? He's a boxer, you moron. You're finished. Behind him, a calm yet intimidating voice spoke up. You've got quick reflexes. What sport do you play? The speaker was Guak Chiol, his cousin, the same boxer the bully had just bragged about. Mu turned toward him, unimpressed. I don't play sports. His lips curled into a grin. I fight, Guak chuckled, shaking his head. What is this? Some kind of middle school syndrome? He stepped forward, raising his fists. All right then, let's see what you got. In an instant, he threw a powerful punch, his fist closing in on Mu's face. Mu made no effort to dodge. The hit landed clean. Guak's eyes narrowed. What's up with this guy? He saw my punch the whole way, and he deliberately took the hit. Mu, still standing, licked the blood dripping from his nose. His grin widened. So, hand-to-hand combat is your thing, huh? He casually mimicked Guak's boxing stance. Is this how it's supposed to go? Guak's brow twitched. Is he just awkwardly copying me? He scoffed. What a joke. But before he could react, Mu's fist slammed into his forearm. A sharp crack echoed through the air. Guak recoiled, shaking his arm. Damn, what kind of crazy punch was that? His muscles throbbed from the impact. The power behind it is unreal. Mu, still grinning, flexed his fingers. So this is how it's done. He thought back to the moment of impact. Right before my fist connected, I tensed every muscle in my arm to its absolute limit. His bones ached, his muscles burned, but it felt amazing. This is real combat. His eyes glowed with excitement. Reaching for his belt, he wrapped it tightly around his injured arm. If I want to keep fighting, I need to take care of this body. The bully scowled. What the hell, man? You said you'd fight fair. Before Mu could respond, Guak cut him off. Shut up and stay out of this. His expression darkened. You seriously think you can win like this? Guak lunged forward, unleashing a flurry of rapid punches. Each blow was fast, precise, and disciplined, but Mu read every single one. Predictable. He could see exactly where each strike would land just by watching the subtle movements in Guak's muscles. Guak went for a powerful cross, but Mu sidestepped and parried it mid-air, shattering Guak's arm in the process. A loud snap rang out as Guak screamed. With his opponent staggering in shock, Mu delivered a devastating uppercut to Guak's chin, knocking him clean off his feet. The bully's eyes widened in horror. What just happened? Mu turned toward him, his grin stretching wider. Now, shall we finish this? The bully's legs trembled. Fear flooded his body. He was next. The bully staggered back, his face swollen and battered. His entire body trembled as he looked up at Mu, eyes filled with fear. Don't come any closer, he stammered, voice barely above a whisper. Mu tilted his head, watching him with curiosity. You don't have the will to fight anymore? He sighed, his tone almost disappointed. That won't work on me. Taking a step forward, the bully said, So, if I admit defeat, this is where it ends? The bully tried to surrender, but just as his mouth opened to respond, crack, a fist slammed into his face before he could utter a word. Then another, and another. Mu's relentless barrage didn't let up, each strike landing before the bully could react, before he could even finish a sentence. He wasn't fighting back. He had no choice but to take it. And finally, with a final punch, he crumpled to the ground, unconscious. Mu, standing over him, cracked his knuckles. You're really ruthless, he muttered. You just won't admit defeat. As Mu turned and walked away, the beaten bully barely lifted his bruised face, muttering through swollen lips. Crazy bastard. Back in his room, Mu sat on his bed, deep in thought. Fighting is fun, but my body breaks too easily. He flexed his fingers, feeling the dull ache from his recent brawl. I never thought my muscles were just for decoration. He clenched his fists, recalling the rush of battle. I need to keep this feeling going. But something was bothering him. The flow keeps getting interrupted. If I go back this time, I need to bring what I told Yong about. Lying back on his bed, he shut his eyes, focusing, returning to my real body. Silence. Nothing happened. Mu's eyes snapped open. Why isn't it working? A few days earlier, Divine Realm, Planet Elmore, Lucifer's domain, Mu had just finished transferring Li Ho to another world. Walking beside him, Yong flapped his wings anxiously. My lord, did you have a good trip to Earth? The dragon asked. Mu stretched his arms, nodding, very satisfied. But this body is too weak. Yong tilted his head. Then, should I prepare recovery magic? Mu's eyes lit up. A magic orb would do. The story then revealed that magic orbs, objects infused with restorative magic, were common on planets rich in mana but nearly non-existent on Earth. Only those granted divine blessings could wield them. Throughout history, humans had mistaken them as miracles, gifts from the gods themselves. Back to the original story, Yong nodded. Then I'll prepare it before your next visit. Are you returning right away? Mu responded with a yes, but then Yong asked, Then, what about the regular gods meeting? Mu smirked. I already handled it. He reached into his pants and tossed a document toward the dragon. Yong's eyes widened. You prepared something in advance? Mu grinned. You complained too much about it, so I figured I'd make things easier for you. As Mu left, someone watched from the shadows. Lucifer. Back to the present. God's meeting. Lucifer leaned back in his chair, a dangerous glint in his eyes. I don't know what that guy's planning, but his body is currently empty. If Mu didn't even show up for the meeting, that meant one thing. He had no plans to return anytime soon. Lucifer's grip tightened. That means now is the chance, the first opportunity in 1,000 years. His eyes glowed as he muttered the words, Life taxidermy. A surge of dark energy erupted from his fingertips, coiling toward Yong like a living curse. The dragon recoiled as the spell latched onto him, his wings tensed, his body shuddering. Lucifer! He roared. What are you doing? Is this a declaration of war against the Earth God? Lucifer's lips curled into a smirk. I will expel Mu from the seat of divinity. His voice rang with authority. This is war, Yong roared, unleashing a compressed breath attack straight at Lucifer. With a flicker of movement, Lucifer dodged, effortlessly. Before the shockwave could tear through the chamber, Soso raised a hand. A barrier snapped into place, flickering as it shielded the gods' meeting from the incoming destruction. The Divine Council sat in tense silence, watching as the standoff unfolded. Yong let out a low growl, his form shifting as he activated polymorph release, unleashing his true power. The two locked eyes, their auras clashing in the air, a moment of stillness. Then, Lucifer took a step forward, his smirk unwavering. You're next, dragon. He paused, letting his words sink in before his smirk deepened. And after you, your master. Yong exhaled, his stance firm, his energy surging. There is no next. And with that, the battle began. The air in the Divine Council was thick with tension. Soso, the third-ranked god, leaned back in his chair, exhaling sharply. This isn't exactly the right atmosphere for a proper meeting. In front of the assembled gods, Lucifer stood tall, his presence dominating the battle. Before him, Yong lay battered, struggling to rise. Soso glanced at the state of things and shook his head. "I'm leaving." Lucifer's eyes flicked toward him. "Wait, which side are you on? Do you support the expulsion, or are you against it?" Soso yawned. "Doesn't matter. Mark me as neutral." Lucifer scoffed. "Fine, just stay out of my way." His gaze swept across the other gods. "If anyone else wants to oppose me, step forward now. I'll handle you myself." Yong let out a growl, his battered form trembling as he lifted his head. "You really think you can defeat my master?" Lucifer's smirk deepened. "Your master? You mean the so-called Earth God? The one who abandoned his divine body to inhabit a weak mortal shell?" Yong's eyes widened. "You knew?" Lucifer let out a cold chuckle. "The most important flaw in power is complacency. Getting too comfortable in your own strength and neglecting vigilance, it always leads to ruin." Yong roared, summoning his remaining strength. "I won't let you get away with this." His tail whipped forward, trying to ensnare Lucifer. But Lucifer moved faster, dodging in a blink and slicing through the tail with ease. "Stay put," Lucifer sneered. "As long as you're alive, I can still get to him. And once I do, I'll destroy your pathetic master completely." Yong's eyes burned with fury, but fear crept into his mind. Mu's body was vulnerable. Lucifer's laughter echoed through the divine hall. Meanwhile, on Earth, Guak stood in front of his coach, his head hanging low as the older man yelled at him. "You idiot! The competition is right around the corner, and you go and mess around like this? Are you out of your mind?" Guak winced. His arm was still in pain from his fight with Mu. "Didn't I tell you before? People who get injured in street fights ruin their careers." The coach scowled. "Are you telling me you're quitting before the tournament even starts?" Guak clenched his fists. "I'm sorry." The coach's voice boomed through the gym. "Seriously? Don't come back until you get your head straight. Get out of my sight." Guak gritted his teeth as he stepped outside. If it weren't for that guy... As he exited, Kang Cheol, the best boxer in their gym, walked past him. His eyes locked onto Guak's injured arm. "What happened to you?" Guak froze for a second, his mind racing. Could this be my chance? With a sudden shift in expression, Guak forced a pitiful look onto his face. He let out a dramatic sigh. "It's nothing. Just kids these days are out of control." Kang raised an eyebrow. "Go on," Guak nodded. "I heard my younger brother was getting bullied, so I stepped in to reason with them." He clenched his fists, shaking his head. "But they ganged up on me, beat me down, and left me like this." He sighed, his voice wavering. "I just wanted to help." Kang frowned, his eyes darkening. "Damn punks," he muttered. Guak, still fake crying, peeked at Kang's expression. Hook, line, and sinker. Kang turned, walking away with an unreadable look on his face. "You should have been more careful before the tournament," he muttered. "You could have used extra sparring sessions instead." Guak's face twitched. "Wait, what?" He gawked at Kang, expecting sympathy. Instead, Kang didn't care. Guak was about to explode when Kang suddenly stopped and added, "Oh, by the way, who exactly is that guy?" A grin crept onto Guak's face. Perfect. Back in his room, Mu sat on his bed, frustration creeping into his mind. Why isn't it working? Something was wrong. He was supposed to return to his divine body when he slept. That was the rule. There's only one reason this would happen. If my real body is damaged. His fists clenched. Yong should be protecting me. Even if he isn't, there aren't many things that could hurt me. A terrifying thought crept into his mind. No way! Could it be, all the gods have joined forces to attack me? His entire body tensed. If that's the case, there's no time to waste. His heart pounded as adrenaline surged through him. Those bastards! No! This can't be happening. It's been so long since they dared to challenge me. I have to get back. He swung his fist into the pillow, but the moment he did, a sharp sting of pain jolted through his body. Muscle soreness. Mu exhaled, gripping his arm. Calm down. Even if the entire divine realm attacked at once, Yong wouldn't fall so easily. Still, he couldn't sit around doing nothing. The next day, Mu could be found at the outdoor gym in the park. For now, I'll just focus on strengthening the muscles I haven't used yet. With each rep, his muscles screamed in pain, but the sensation was exhilarating. His body aching, burning. This was a good kind of suffering. He let out a quiet laugh, a grin stretching across his face. Nearby, people glanced at him with uneasy expressions. Then, suddenly, "Hey!" A familiar voice. Mu froze, startled, and lost balance, tumbling straight to the ground. The class president stood over him, arms crossed, looking unimpressed. Mu groaned, rubbing his head. "Damn, you scared me?" She raised an eyebrow. "Why aren't you coming to school?" Mu blinked. School? He had almost forgotten. "Do I really have to go back? It's not exactly a place for training, is it?" The class president sighed. "Then what do you want to do?" Mu smirked. "I want to get stronger. That's why I'm training." She rolled her eyes. "And why do you want to get stronger?" Mu answered without hesitation. "So I can fight better. Right now, I'm too weak. My body is only at 100%. I need to build it up." She stared at him, baffled. "You think 100% is weak?" Mu continued, oblivious. "If I train more, I'll triple my speed. I'll triple my strength. If I fight stronger opponents, I'll grow even more." The class president tuned him out. This guy is insane. Then, an idea popped into her head. "That's it." Mu paused. "Huh?" She smirked. "What's the point of training if there's no one to fight? Maybe if you came to school, you'd find more people to fight." Mu's eyes lit up. "Starting tomorrow, come to school?" As the class president walked away, a mysterious voice suddenly interrupted. "Second year, Liho. That's right, isn't it?" Mu turned to see a masked figure, fists raised, ready to strike. His grin widened. "Seriously?" As the punch came flying, Mu smiled even wider and said, "Earth is the best." The story then revealed Kang Cheol's background. At 15 years old, he was just a teenager, beginning his journey in boxing. Back then, his world revolved around training and his older sister, a promising rookie ballerina with a bright future ahead of her. Then, everything changed. His sister attracted a stalker, a man whose obsession grew more and more severe over time. At first, it was just following her around, watching from the shadows. But soon, it crossed the line. Kang barely managed to stop the crime before it happened. But because he acted early, there was no real evidence to charge the stalker. The law let him walk free, and so, his obsession only intensified. The next time, Kang wasn't fast enough. The stalker attacked. His sister's wings were broken. She would never dance again. That day, Kang lost faith in the law. If the system couldn't stop criminals, then he would. From that moment on, he became the law. Every night, he tracked down people who showed signs of becoming criminals, and he made them pay in advance. Back in the present, Kang's fist slammed into Mu's face. Mu barely flinched. He absorbed the impact, analyzing the force behind it. His punches are light. Is he testing me? Even so, he attacked first. That was enough. Mu smirked. "I thought it'd be tough to find a fight for a while, but I got lucky." Kang took a step back, his sharp eyes scanning Mu's reaction. "Why do you go around beating people?" he asked. "Do you want to become a dog or something?" Mu tilted his head, grinning. "I'm not a fan of small dogs." Kang's brow twitched. That pissed him off. "Then come at me, you bastard," Kang growled. With a swift movement, he lunged forward. Mu reacted immediately, dodging to the side. His movements were sharp, instinctive. Kang's eyes gleamed. "You dodge well." The next punch came fast, too fast. Kang deliberately aimed at Mu's right vision field, blocking his peripheral view before striking with his left. Mu still blocked it. Kang let out a low chuckle. "You block well too." Mu's grin widened. "He's good." Kang's attacks didn't stop. He struck over and over, forcing Mu into defense. His fists targeted ruptured spots, exploiting every weakness. Mu's body jerked back as a glancing blow struck his kidney. He retreated a few steps. Kang smirked. "I guess your arm isn't responding anymore. No matter how injured you are, the judge shows no mercy." Mu panted, his muscles screaming from overuse. But even in pain, his expression remained twisted. He was still smiling. Kang's irritation flared. "Are you laughing?" Mu wasn't just smiling. He looked like he was enjoying this. Kang's anger boiled over. "You crazy bastard!" Mu's mind raced. Mu studied Kang Chul carefully, his instincts telling him this guy couldn't be beaten. At least, not right now. But that didn't mean he would waste this fight. You can't win just by enjoying the battle. Slowly, he raised a hand to his face, covering his mouth as he whispered to himself, "Stay cautious, stay calm, don't smile." A memory surfaced, a battle from long ago. I couldn't always win, but even when I lost, it was still fun. But wanting to win, that was different. So I made a choice: suppress my emotions, stay focused, think ahead. The more I used my head, the stronger I became. The more I buried my emotions, the sharper I fought. Yet, no matter how much I suppressed it, the thrill of battle still leaked through. So when I truly wanted to win, I erased it completely. Back in the present, Mu forced his smile to fade, his face shifting into a sullen, miserable expression. Kang Chul's anger flared, his irritation spiking at the sudden change. Something about it set him off even more. "You crazy bastard! You still think you're standing your ground?" His muscles tensed, his fists clenched, and in the next instant, he lunged forward, this time with real killing intent. Kang Chul's fist shot forward, aiming for Mu's face, but Mu dodged, twisting his body backward. His feet landed lightly against a tree trunk, absorbing the momentum before he kicked off, sending a burst of dirt flying toward Kang. Kang barely reacted, smirking as he tilted his head slightly to avoid the dust. "Throwing dirt in someone's eye?" he scoffed. "That's something only a criminal in the making would do. So predictable." Mu, still wearing his sullen expression, muttered, "What are you waiting for? Keep going." Kang's rage flared. The way this guy looked down on him, even while struggling, infuriated him. With explosive speed, Kang lunged again, throwing a powerful punch. Mu dodged, but this time, Kang was ready. He feinted to the right, then swung from behind. Mu barely managed to twist his head, but the fist grazed his chin. His mind raced. "This guy's aiming for my jaw. He's trying to knock me out clean." Fighting in bare-knuckle matches wasn't new to Mu. He had seen it countless times in his previous world. But there was one major difference between the opponents he had faced before and Kang Chul. The fighters of old fought with more defense. Why? The ground. Uneven terrain made it too risky to attack recklessly, but modern fighters had stable footing. With the evolution of footwear and grounded techniques, they could afford to be aggressive. That aggression made them predictable. Mu smirked. "I know exactly where he'll move next." Kang's fists flew forward again, his movement sharper, more aggressive. He punched in a relentless rhythm, trying to overwhelm Mu. But Mu just dodged. Each step Kang took forward kicked up the dirt Mu had drawn into the ground earlier, causing tiny slips in his movements. The more he moves, the more the battlefield shifts in my favor. Finally, an opening appeared. Mu lunged forward, aiming a punch at Kang's face. But at the last second, he switched to his elbow instead. Kang barely reacted. His goggles absorbed the impact, preventing any real damage. Mu let out a laugh. "I hit you! You missed!" But Kang had not missed. Before Mu could react, Kang swung his baton, smashing it into Mu's thigh. Mu's legs buckled, his body collapsed to the ground. Kang loomed over him, breathing heavily. "Is this fun for you?" he sneered. "You probably go around doing the same thing, laughing like an idiot. Well, I'll make sure you can't laugh anymore." He raised his baton, preparing for the final strike. Lying on the ground, Mu exhaled. "How long has it been since I last tasted defeat?" His fingers twitched. "Nearly 4,000 years, since my last loss." Kang's baton shot down, but before it could connect, something slammed into his face. Kang staggered back, blinking in confusion. "What the hell?" a voice rang out. "Master!" Kang's face twisted in shock. "Oh no! There's someone! I need to run!" Without hesitation, he turned and bolted. Mu slowly sat up, his head turning toward the voice. A tiny figure stood before him, a small, lizard-like dragon. Mu's eyes narrowed. "You're Yang! A while back in the divine realm, Mu's original body lay trapped in divine energy. Lucifer stood before Mu's helpless body, a smirk curling on his lips. Gazing upon the trapped form, he muttered, "This guy can no longer return to his own body." His fingers traced the glowing lines of divine energy wrapped around Mu. This space is completely severed. Even the stars themselves couldn't break through it. Turning his gaze, he looked at a nearby figure, Yong. Lucifer smirked. "Once I deal with him," his voice dropped to a dark whisper, "I'll grant you possession of Earth's domain. So, cooperate." Yong trembled, barely able to speak. Lucifer raised an eyebrow. "What's that? Speak up. I can't hear a damn thing with those big jaws of yours." Yong, forcing out ragged breaths, murmured, "Barriers can't be severed by attacks. That means no attacks can still get through, right?" Lucifer chuckled. "That's right. Nothing you do will work." "There's nothing you can do." Yong smirked, his voice calm. "Good to know." Lucifer's eyes widened. Yong's body swelled, energy pulsating violently. Lucifer's smirk vanished. "Wait!" Boom! A massive explosion erupted, shaking the entire divine realm. Flames and shockwaves ripped through the space, consuming everything in a blinding inferno. As the firestorm raged, a small figure darted forward, slipping through the chaos. A tiny lizard-like dragon, Yong. His body was drastically weakened, his energy nearly depleted. "I used up everything, but I have to reach my master. I have to warn him." He ran, fleeing toward Earth, his tiny frame barely holding together. Lucifer's rage exploded. "I'll grind you and your master into dust." He launched a divine attack, but Yong barely dodged and was able to escape into Earth's atmosphere. His small form plummeted like a meteor and crashed directly into Kang Cheol's head. The scene shifted to Mu's home, where Yong explained everything. Mu clenched his fists, his lips curling into a sinister smile. He could feel it, the lingering frustration, the burning desire to fight. "I need to get stronger, as soon as possible. If I want to fight in this body, I need to push myself harder." He threw a punch into the air, only for a sharp ache to shoot through his arm. His muscles screamed in pain. "At this rate, I won't be able to use it for a while." He turned to Yong. "Did you bring it?" Yong nodded. "The magic orb?" "Of course." Opening his mouth, he spat out a glowing orb, cradling it carefully in his claws. "This is a dragon bloodstone, infused with a one-time healing spell. If I had known things would turn out like this, I would have brought more." Mu took the bloodstone, rolling it in his palm. "This should be enough." As he absorbed its energy, his injuries rapidly healed, the pain melting away. But something was different. This wasn't just a simple healing spell. It felt deeper. His muscles twitched. "My senses feel sharper. My body feels more responsive." Yong puffed up his chest. "That's because I infused my own magic into it. I put in some effort, you know." Mu examined the bloodstone, noticing a faint glow still pulsing inside it. "There's some left. Looks like I didn't need the full dose. Must be because this human body doesn't need as much magic." He tossed the stone back to Yong. "You use the rest." Yong blinked. "No way. I'll save it for later." With that, he swallowed the stone again. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a small lizard, Dooley, sat comfortably in the class president's hands as she gently played with it. She smiled warmly. "Dooley, you're as cute as ever today." She poked its tiny nose playfully. "If only you could talk, then we could chat and play together every day." Dooley blinked, tilting its head in curiosity. She let out a soft sigh. "Stay still and be good. I'll see you after school later." With that, she stood up and headed out. Back at school, a certain bully sat at his desk, flipping through his textbook, looking completely out of place. His expression was distant as he muttered to himself, "Yeah, being a bully never really suited me. Instead of messing around, maybe I should just study." Then, the classroom door swung open. Mu walked in. His gaze immediately locked onto the former bully. "You want to have a match?" The class president, standing behind Mu, raised an eyebrow. "So you actually showed up today?" Mu glanced at her. "Oh, it's you." He smirked. "I was convinced by what you said, about looking for someone to fight." His eyes glowed with excitement. The class president didn't care much but was glad he came to school. She let out a long sigh. "Yeah, good luck with that." Later in the day in Kang Cheol's classroom, a girl approached him and asked, "Did you hear?" Kang Cheol barely glanced up. "Hear what?" "The second-year neutralizer." Kang furrowed his brows. Neutralizer? What kind of dumb nickname is that? The girl leaned closer, whispering, "There was a kid in the second year who was getting bullied. But then, one day, he completely snapped and took down his bully in the most brutal way possible." Kang's eyes narrowed. "Oh, so you're saying he did that to the guy who bullied him?" She nodded. "Yeah, and even ripped off an ear. That's why people started calling him Neutralizer." Kang's breath hitched. Even that detail, the ear, lined up with what that guy did to Guak. His jaw tightened. No way. Was that bastard lying to me this whole time? His fists clenched as realization hit him. That damn punk. Guak lied to me. As Kang started piecing everything together, he thought, so I almost beat up the wrong guy for no reason. Well, I guess I kinda did anyway. Right behind him, Mu was also on his way home, lost in thought. Everyone around him was either studying, scribbling notes, or just keeping their heads down. No one seemed ready for a challenge. What a waste. Might as well go train at the park gym. Then, his gaze locked onto someone. His eyes narrowed toward Kang. That size, the muscle placement, it's the same as before. Mu's face lit up. "It's that guy from yesterday," he shouted. Kang Cheol froze. Slowly he turned, his stomach twisting. Mu was already running straight at him. Kang's face paled. "What? No, that's the guy from yesterday. He knows it's me. How does he know?" His mind raced. "I was wrapped up so tightly. I had the goggles, the face mask. No way he recognized me. Then why is he chasing me? Is he trying to report me to the police?" He bolted. Mu's grin widened as he chased after him. Kang darted into an alleyway, hoping to lose him. Mu skidded to a stop, glancing around. Shh. Where did he go? His fists clenched. This was the perfect situation for a fight. Just then, Yong popped out from his shirt. The tiny dragon huffed. "Looking for that guy from yesterday? The rude bastard who challenged my master?" Mu asked Yong, "You smelled him, right?" Yong nodded proudly. "I definitely did. I sensed a strong male scent when we bumped into each other. If we follow that, we'll find him for sure." But then, he suddenly froze as he bumped into something. Slowly he looked up. It was the class president, standing there, staring down at him. For a moment, she was completely silent. Then, her face turned red. "A talking lizard?" Yong huffed, looking up at the class president. "Move aside, will you?" But before he could protest further, she scooped him up, holding him in her hands. The tiny dragon panicked, squirming in her grasp. "What are you doing? Do you even know who I am?" His mind raced. "Damn it! If only I could use magic. This kind of restraint would be nothing." The class president, however, wasn't listening. She simply stared at him in awe, eyes sparkling. "A talking lizard?" she gasped. "Creatures like this actually exist? It's so cute, maybe even cuter than Dooley." Yong immediately leaped from her grasp, scurrying toward Mu and hiding behind his leg. He cleared his throat. "I apologize. If only I hadn't lost my powers." The class president folded her arms and turned to Mu. "Is that thing your friend by any chance?" Mu glanced down at Yong, then back at her. "This one? You could call it a friend. A very obedient one." For some reason, the class president's expression turned to jealousy. Mu, completely indifferent, lifted his foot slightly and asked, "Want to borrow it?" Both Yong and the class president froze. Later, inside the class president's room, Yong stood in front of her, shooting her a deadpan glare. She stared back at him. "Is it mad?" Her mind flashed back to just minutes ago, to Mu casually handing him over. The class president blinked in confusion as Mu casually handed her the tiny dragon. "There's someone I'm looking for right now. If you help me, I'll let you borrow it." She hesitated for only a second before responding. "Absolutely." Yong stared in horror as he was suddenly handed over. Mu glanced down at him. "Just stay with her for a bit, then come back on your own." Yong gawked. "Master, where are you going?" Mu turned away. "To Sansujang, the park gym." Back in the present, Yong finally broke the silence, standing up with a serious expression. "I am Yong, the secretary of the Supreme Being. He raised a tiny claw for a handshake. From this moment on, my master has instructed you to actively cooperate with me. The class president's heart throbbed from the cuteness as she shook his hand and asked, "Is Lee Ho your master?" She then said, "All right, I'll help. Believe it or not, I'm the class president." Yong tilted his head. "Class? President?" She nodded. "Yeah, it means I'm the leader of my class. I'm also ranked first in my grade." Yong crossed his arms, nodding in approval. "I see. Master wouldn't choose you for nothing?" Then he paused, a thought crossing his mind. "Wait, if you're the leader of your class, does that mean Master isn't the leader?" She shook her head. "Lee Ho? He's not that high up. I think?" Yong gawked in disbelief. "Impossible. Master is the strongest being I know. I refuse to believe he isn't at the top." His expression hardened. "If you are the leader of your class, then Master must become the leader of this entire world. From now on, do your best to make sure Master becomes the strongest." The class president rolled her eyes. "Fine, but on one condition." Yong perked up. "What is it?" "You have to visit my house often." Yong smirked inwardly. "Perfect. I was planning to use this girl to gather information about Earth anyway." He nodded. "Sounds good. For Master, that's nothing." Inside his mind, he grinned. "Don't worry, Master. This Yong will help you reclaim the title of the strongest." Meanwhile, at the park gym, Mu stood alone, finishing his workout. He rotated his shoulders, rolling out the tension. "It's definitely getting better. There's a physical enhancement effect. As my damaged muscles recover, I become even stronger." He threw a punch at a metal bar. This time, his arm didn't ache. A smirk tugged at his lips. "Not bad. I might be able to push myself a little further." Glancing around, he sighed. "Is he not coming today? Well, since that guy seems to attend school regularly, I'll probably run into him soon." As he walked away, the metal bar he had punched was left battered and bent. Back with Yong, while the tiny dragon was helping the class president browse for online purchases, his nose twitched. A familiar scent. His eyes widened. "That smell! That's Master's scent!" Immediately, Yong turned to the class president. "Thanks for everything. I'll drop by often, but that's it for today." Before she could even respond, he leaped off the balcony, his tiny wings fluttering as he raced toward Mu. A few moments later, Yong landed gracefully on Mu's shoulder, catching his breath. "Master! The one you entrusted to me, I have completely won them over. My supporting chess piece will also be loyal to you." Mu barely reacted. "Good job." But then, Yong's nose twitched again, his eyes narrowed. "Master, that smell!" Mu followed his gaze. Not too far away, Kangchiul was in the middle of beating someone senseless. The guy on the ground trembled, his face already bruised. He begged in desperation. Daddy, I swear, I just stole a bike." Kang cut him off, his voice calm. "You made a mistake, didn't you?" The man nodded frantically. Kang cracked his knuckles. "Then you already know what happens next." The man's eyes widened in horror. "No, wait! I'll send people after you." Thud. Before he could finish his sentence, Kang finished him off. Standing over the unconscious body, Kang exhaled, shaking his head. Then, from behind him, Mu stood there, watching Kangchiul with a sinister smile as he said, "Found you."
This video isn't free. It'll cost you just one subscribe, and I'm just gonna flip this around and ask you a couple of questions. You know we appreciate tips in the form of likes and comments if you feel like it.